Breaking news, officials say they have a suspect in custody in the shooting death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. They say a family member of the 22-year-old reached out to a family friend who then reached out to law enforcement. And sources tell ABC News it was his father who convinced the suspect to turn himself in. And this is the moment Utah Governor Spencer Cox confirmed his arrest.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
And let's bring in Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katersky and Justice Department reporter Alex Mallin. Aaron, what do we know about the suspect so far?
22-year-old Tyler Robinson was taken into custody overnight in Utah by the U.S. Marshals. As you heard from Governor Spencer Cox, it was a family member, we're told his father, who tried to convince his son to turn himself in. And when he didn't, we're told the father called a youth pastor who has an affiliation with the U.S. Marshals Service. The Marshals took him into custody, and the governor said he'll be charged with Charlie Kirk's murder in the coming days. The father seemed to have recognized his son from the surveillance images law enforcement authorities circulated in recent days, the one showing the young man in all dark clothing but with a distinctive shirt, shoes, backpack, and hat. And that description was enough for the father to try to convince his son to turn himself in. Investigators say they've also been able to link him to the weapon through Discord messages that apparently a roommate of Tyler Robinson showed to investigators. Those messages contained content, the governor said, where Robinson allegedly mentioned needing to retrieve a rifle wrapped in a towel. And investigators said when they found the single bolt-action rifle in the woods near the area where they think the suspect escaped, it was wrapped in a towel. The gun and the bullets have now been sent to the FBI lab in Virginia for analysis.
So, Alex, what are the next steps in building this case now?
Well, we heard from Governor Cox that he says he expects that they will have some kind of charging documents filed within the next 3 days, probably early next week, that will probably lay out in greater detail than we just heard at that presser the case against him, and hopefully more about his path to radicalization and taking that alleged shot at Charlie Kirk. We understand, obviously, that they will likely be exploiting any digital devices that he had in his possession. They'll be conducting more interviews with people close to him, including family members. We know that they spoke to his roommate already. So they're obviously building this profile that they expect now to bring charges against. They're going to bring felony charges, state charges, and it's a question of whether we'll see federal charges. We heard from FBI Director Kash Patel emphasizing the federal and state partnership here that led to this arrest. Obviously, that came 2 hours after they held that news conference last night where they released that shocking video showing this suspect, going from the roof, jumping down, and then fleeing into that neighborhood. So, just starting to see the contours of this case, more images potentially released and more information about the suspect and his digital history, I think, is going to be key in building that motive.
And let's bring in White House correspondent Karen Travers, because Karen, I said the governor broke the news at the press conference, but really it was the president who broke this news during a TV interview this morning. Any more from the White House on this?
Yeah, the governor gave the details of the arrest and the suspect, but it was the president, Diane, who went on Fox News this morning at 8 o'clock and said that he had just been briefed 5 minutes before he walked onto that set and was told that law enforcement officials had someone in custody and they felt that this was the guy. The president then talked at length about Charlie Kirk. He talked about the investigation and what will happen next and said that he is hoping there is a quick trial now for, at that point, Tyler Robinson had not been named, but he said for the suspect, and also said he hoped that he would get the death penalty. Diane, we heard the president on the night of the shooting. He released a video talking about what had happened, and he echoed many of those same comments during that interview on Fox today, again blaming what he called the radical left for hatred and saying that they're vicious and horrible but politically savvy. This is notable, the message that we're hearing from the president, from his two sons, who are very much pointing the finger at the left and saying that right now political violence is going only in one direction. That is, of course, not the case. We have seen targeted violence against Democrats and progressives, even in just the last couple of months with those shootings in Minnesota, and of course the arson attack at the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro's residence earlier this year.
And I want to bring in Washington Bureau Managing Editor Katherine Faulders, too. Katherine, officials are also detailing some more of the physical evidence they found in this case. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, they are. Of course, they mentioned that they had found the gun. We know that from yesterday as well. They also mentioned some of the bullets and the casings that were, of course, left not fired, for example. They detailed engravings that were on those casings that, of course, law enforcement officials are still examining. There's some anti-fascist messaging on those, it would appear. A number of arrows that they detailed, an up arrow, a right arrow symbol, 3 down arrow symbols. All of this is to say that there is inscriptions on the bullets, or at least one bullet, the casings that was left behind, that authorities are still examining. And of course, they detailed a number of messages that were sent on the platform Discord between the suspect in custody and his roommate, of course, who they did not name, that laid out in great detail positioning of the weapon. The authorities said that the suspect had communicated with his roommate saying that he had changed his clothes, for example. So they were able, obviously, to use that evidence as well. So they're detailing that and laying that out. Of course, there's still more to learn from that, as well as authorities try and zero in really on the motive here.
And I also want to go to former NYPD Chief of Detectives Robert Boyce, because Robert, authorities are saying they've already spoken to this suspect's family, they've already spoken to the suspect's roommate, and presumably they have or will be speaking quite a bit to him over the next couple of days. How crucial are these first hours and days of that interrogation process?
In those instances, when you get those statements early on in an investigation, it's crucial to take your case to the DA or to a prosecutor and say, we have this right now. And he's made these statements here that are locked in solid, and we're going to go forward with that. And then with that, that's probable cause for an arrest. And you can then go forward and get all the other evidence that you need. You get your search warrants for your computers and phones and things of that nature. But those are really important, those statements. They open up the case and identify your shooter in this matter. So crucial that the parents or the family members actually walked in and helped out this prosecution.
All right, Aaron Katersky, Alex Mallin, Karen Travers, Katherine Faulders, and Robert Boyce, thank you.